Okay, guys, wanted to talk a little bit about the 6mm GT and the 6.5 PRC. We get a lot of credit for those calibers. A lot of people ask us how we came up with them and what was the reason behind it. We'll start out with the 6.5 PRC because it was first. That cartridge actually started as a 6.5 SOM, and at the time Hornady wanted to support it, but there was a lot of rift in the ammo business, so they just couldn't support a caliber that we wanted to do with them, which would have been a 6.5 case based off the 300 RCM. So the next best choice was the Remington Short Action Ultra Mag, which we came out with that case. It was a huge hit. We built a couple thousand guns in that caliber over the 4-year period prior to the PRC. But Jason Hornady never forgot that originally we wanted to do it with him and on the RCM case. So Jason called me up to Grand Island. We sat down and we decided, what it would take to get that rolling again. The reason we really wanted to use the RCM over the SOM case is it's non-rebated. It feeds better. It doesn't have to. The body of the case is the same size as the rim, which makes it feed really well out of top loaders. Hunting rifles like Browning, Winchester, Remington, they normally have a top loading system, and that non-rebated rim really makes those feed ideally. So to make an ideal caliber that would be great for the masses, be great for all the manufacturing companies to do, was what the PRC ended up being. So 6.5 PRC is essentially 300 RCM body. It's a little bit longer to the shoulder. It's got exactly the perfect length neck, which is where you take the size of the diameter of the bullet and add a third to it. That's kind of been known forever by ballisticians as being the best way to come up with a neck length. At any rate, 6.5 PRC was born. The designs were done by Joe Thielen there at Hornady. We tested it for about a year, kind of underground, without anyone knowing it was coming out. Myself, Neil, Jason all took animals that year with it. Everything from small game all the way up to elk. Great elk caliber. In fact, this is still my favorite of all the calibers that are out there to hunt elk with. Low recoil. You can see where your shot went. 99% of the time, unless I'm just in a really awkward position, I see my bullet strike the elk and know that it was a good shot and not have to worry about, that I wounded or whatever. To guys that may not be as good a shot, if you actually miss, it's just as important because you'll see where that round impacted and you'll know that you didn't strike the animal and you're not worried about following stuff. Or if the animal stands there, you're obviously able to make a correction and get that next shot right in the animal and make a clean kill. So 6.5 PRC, that was the number one caliber that really took off, and GA Precision had a lot to do with. Second one would be the 6GT. Totally different. This was born out as a competition caliber from the start. A lot of guys will remember in the PRS, tons of guys started kind of glamming onto the BR and the Dasher and these short bench rest calibers that are hyper accurate. I would never complain to someone and say, hey, there's not accuracy in those bench rest calibers, because there are. That's why bench rest shooters use them. They're really accurate. They're really easy to load develop for. The problem is our magazines are this long and they're this long, and so that round wants to pop up out of the magazine before it gets into the chamber and cause feeding problems. If you've ever been to the range with a lot of guys shooting those, you'll constantly see them like double pumping their bolt, or the Dasher finger sweep, where they're pushing the nose of the bullet down, or they're closing. Guys that practice it all the time kind of get good at it, but guys that maybe are more weekend shooters have problems with it. And as a gun builder, I do not want my shooters that receive guns from us having feeding problems. So myself and Tom Jacobs, who's kind of a renowned, bench rest shooter in the 600,000 yard discipline, decided to think up something that would be better. So this is the GT. What it basically is a Dasher that's 100 thousandths further forward in the shoulder. So the case is 100 thousandths longer to this point, and there's 50 thousandths longer in the neck. Everyone knows Dashers have really short necks, one of the problematic things with it. So it's 150 thousandths longer cartridge than the BRs, the Dashers, the BRAs, and all those derivatives. That allows it to stay in the magazine long enough where the tip of bullet starts in the chamber. You get perfect feeding. It also allows the small volume of powder, which makes those calibers so accurate. We went with a 35-degree shoulder over a 30, or the dasher with the 40, mainly just keep it kind of in between. That also can cause a feeding problem. If you hit that 40-degree shoulder, it wants to pop up fast, where a 35 makes it going a lot smoother. So myself and Tom made 400 of these cases one afternoon by taking a Lapua 65x47 brass, cutting a 1/4 inch off, necking it, turning it, shooting it, turning it again. It's an all-day affair to make 400 pieces of brass, and we shot this for about a year and a half before we told anyone about it. In fact, the first name of it was going to be GS. I'm not sure why we even picked that. I think it was supposed to be a Grand Sport after a car or something, but then we thought GT was cool because it's also a car name and has our initials. So George is the G, T is for Tom, and the GT has been a prolific cartridge, factory ammo now, great brass from 3 different makers. It's going to be 4 here soon, with Lapua debuting it in the fall this year. This cartridge is here to stay. If you haven't tried a GT and you're really into dashers and BRs, don't be afraid to go to this. It'll end your feeding woes, and you'll have that same accuracy and ease of loading for it. So that's the story on the two. They've both done well. I know that in fact, I know for sure there's companies coming out with more factory ammo that'll be available here soon, probably within, I would say, the next 18 months, maybe even sooner. And it's here to stay. So that's the history of it.